keep things moving, and they bump him out, they retire him.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the way my cousin felt about it. And like I said, he's doing some consulting and things of that nature. I can't remember whether it's with like a Halliburton type of outfit or something like that, but he is definitely still involved in the military as a consultant, as is his wife, who is also involved in the military. So definitely I know that that's the way that it works, but I just wanted to hear it from somebody that had been through the system. Dean, could you drop me a spot? And by the way, I think you dropped off there for a second because I had my screen up as well, but I see that you're back on. So if you could drop us a spot and then bring LaVon on, because I definitely want to talk about some more about some of the issues that are going on around Durham, and I definitely want to hear from both Mr. Middleton and Mr. Barnes, who is running for office as well. So, and definitely want everybody to stay on the line. So, Dean, can you drop me one more spot?
You got it. Here it is.
Are you enjoying the smoothest conversation in podcasting? Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. Hi, this is DJ Smooth Jazz, syndicated radio host and co-owner of Portfolio Group LLC, your smooth jazz lifestyle and entertainment group with offices in Durham, North Carolina. Portfolio Group LLC specializes in promoting the lifestyle of smooth jazz listeners with the promotion of smooth jazz events and the distribution of African American owned wines. For more information, portfoliogroupllc.com, or you can swing by my secondary site, djsmoothjazz.com. Now back to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
Mr. Barnes, welcome to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. You are now on the line.
What's going on, man? It's always a pleasure.
I'm all right.
Always a pleasure to be on here.
Glad to have you on, Mr. Barnes. Mr. Barnes, you heard we've got Mark-Anthony Middleton on and Mark Dunquist. Dunquist has written a book about his experiences both in the military as well as his experiences with the law enforcement up in the Northeast. Of course, Mark-Anthony Middleton is one of your fellow folks involved in the political circle here. He's on the city council, and I know that you're running for county commissioner. So tell us a little bit about what got you into deciding that you want to run for this county commissioner seat. And also, I can't remember if you served in the military or not. I know we've talked about different parts of your background, but I can't remember whether you served any in the military or did not, or if you had any family members that did.
Here's what I can tell you. The closest to the military I've ever been was freshman year of high school, NJROTC, for like a half a semester. That was it. That was the closest to the military that I was going to get. I was an athlete, so I remember the recruiters coming to the door and said, I got a scholarship. I said, well, good luck to you. And they kept it moving. So, but I had nothing but respect for our armed services and our members that serve. I had family that had served, uncles and cousins and friends. Some of my closest friends are still active in the military, so I have nothing but respect there. So the reason why I'm running for Durham County Commissioner is simple. We need a diverse lens on that commissioner's board. I'm a public school teacher. A third of the budget is dealing with public schools. Being a public school teacher has prepared me to be on the commission. The stories of mental health, or the lack of mental health access that I have to hear every day from my family, the fact that my students have to sleep on the floor because they're worried about gunshots flying into their apartment, the fact that they have no food to eat, the fact that parents can't get adequate services. These are things that teachers have to deal with every single day on the front lines and make it work. And I just feel that things are going well in Durham, yes, but for quite a few things are not. And you got to have a lens and a voice that's willing to be on that county commission, who understands it, who's directly affected by it, because I think that brings a different dynamic to the board.
Definitely. One of the things I'm curious to hear from both you and Middleton about, and if Mr. Dunquist wants to jump in to the conversation as well, is one of the issues that I think is both a county and a city issue is the whole issue of public transportation. So I was just wondering what both of your thoughts are about how we're doing in terms of public transportation and whether it's something that we can do better in. I know a lot of people were very big supporters of what we were hoping to get with light rail, but that didn't happen, and some people would argue that Duke and other places may have had factors on that. But I know, as I've said on this show before, I would love to be able to get to Stag Deal or even Chicory Hills, but being a mass transit person, it's not the easiest trip to get to those places. I mean, sure, I can do Uber, but that's not exactly cheap either.
Yeah. Well, Mark, I'll answer before my esteemed fraternity brother. First of all, you have 3 Northeastern guys on your radio show, so we all me and Mark are from MTA, Metro Transit Authority.
Yes, sir.
As New Yorkers, we know what 24-hour transit looks like. It may not be the cleanest, but we know what it is, and we know it's efficient. But I would say, honestly, light rail was a disappointment. I think that 20 years and $130 million plus that the citizens of Durham have put into that, and to come up empty-handed, there's a lot of distrust there. Whether that's because of Duke, whether that's because of the councils and the county commissioners that have been serving in that aspect, I just feel as though before we do anything else, before we jump into commuter rail, we need to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, and that everybody is in agreement through completion before we spend any money. And I think that's important that the citizens actually trust that we're going to make the right decision. But I would love to see us, the county and the city, really work on public transit together. We have crumbling streets. Mark can attest to you how much it costs to build a sidewalk. But I would like us to be on sustainable public transportation. We can do solar buses. We can do things where we're not creating a big carbon imprint in Durham, and be innovative that can help folks right now. How can we connect the county to the city is critical. Because one of the questions that was asked is, how can we get more folks to participate on these boards? But if you live out in Bahama and Rosemount and some of these areas, and you don't got access to good transportation, it's impossible to hear your view. So I think that the city and the county can work together on some things, but before we do anything, we better make sure we have agreement to completion in place. And I'll pass it off to my brother Mark.
Absolutely. Thanks, Levon. First off, let me say how good it is to be on the podcast with Levon. He's a leader in the classroom, in the education field. He's a leader in his community, and he's a name that we should remember and be watching for his ascent in American politics. So it's good to be sharing the space with him. Let me firstly say something about transportation in general, kind of at the macro level, and that is this. No great city can claim the mantle of great metropolis without its citizens and residents being able to negotiate it without a car. That is a threshold any great city must cross. I don't care whether it's Paris or Tokyo or New York. You have to be able to access the city, all of its cultural centers, its educational centers, hospitals, parks, without a car. If you can't do that, you may be a cool city, you may be a city on the ascent, but you must cross that threshold in order to claim the mantle of great metropolis. I grew up in New York City, in Brooklyn. I grew up on buses and trains, and one of the things I loved about it was the egalitarian nature of it. I'd be on a train, and to the left of me would be a homeless person, and to the right, a millionaire stockbroker who worked on Wall Street. There was no stigma. And part of the issue here where I am in Durham, our public transportation is stigmatized. Most of the riders are people of color and poor, overwhelming majority of the folk that ride public transportation. So one of the things we've got to do is we've got to increase routes, accessibility, get better headway times, and destigmatize it. One of the ways it gets destigmatized is like people like me and others, and Levon and others, using the system to remove some of the stigma that it's just poor folk, it's just black folk that ride it. The light rail, which you alluded to, Mark, was, I made some national news on it. We made some national news, about the spat about that. I was very vocal in my challenging, not just Duke, but it wasn't just Duke, and we should not lay all this on Duke, but North Carolina Railroad and other players. I thought the light rail was an important part of our ascent as a city, and partly it was billed as kind of making up to a section of our community that was cut off from the rest of the city when, in the name of urban renewal, a roadway, North Carolina 147, was built through an historic community. We know about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. The other Black Wall Street was here in Durham, North Carolina, which both W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, who disagreed on a lot of things, agreed on one thing: Durham was the spot. And we built a highway that literally decimated a black enclave of entrepreneurialism and art and culture and religious fervor and economic empowerment. And part of the restitution, if you will, of that was supposed to be light rail. It was literally to be a physical reconnecting of parts of the city that were cut off by urban renewal back downtown. So it was a bit heartbreaking for a lot of us. It was a disappointment. So now we're focused on beefing up our rapid transit, our surface rapid transit bus lines. Levon alluded to talking about commuter rail. I think he's right. We've got to practice a great deal of diligence and be transparent and upfront about what it's going to take to bring these projects to fruition. There was about $2 billion of federal money that we left on the table because light rail did not come to fruition. There's a lot of still hurt feelings here in this city and in this region over it. But what is absolutely critical, we have from between 16 to 20 people a day, families a day, between 10 to 20 families a day moving to Durham and moving to this region. Many of them are bringing cars with them. We absolutely have to have other solutions than cars. And if we're to continue our ascent towards the mantle of great American city, great American metropolis, then we're going to have to put some serious resources and serious effort into developing a mass transit system that goes beyond just cars.
No, definitely, no doubt about that. And like I said, I try to get around and do it primarily through mass transit and friends and acquaintances and things of that nature. Now, there's an issue that I'm curious to hear from all three of you about, and I think Mr. Dunkwich will have some interesting thoughts on this as well. Another issue that is very pressing to the Durham community is we have a serious, and I think it's both a city and a county problem. We have a serious homeless issue. And when I talk to some of these folks, like I said, I live around the corner from a Duke's campus, and there are some food centers. So occasionally I'll talk to some of these people that are some of our homeless community, and some of them are actually veterans. So I'm wondering, do you think that we're doing enough to help our homeless on both the city and county level? And just from Mr. Dunkwith, you served in the military. I was wondering if you had some stories of what you've dealt with even in Connecticut, because I'm just oftentimes amazed that these folks have done this tremendous amount of service for our country, and then they come back here and then they run into this whole issue of being homeless and trying to find good housing, good jobs, good things of that nature. So it does seem like it's an issue that is across the board, but it does impact our veterans, among others.
Well, with the National Guard soldiers, we were coming from a reasonably secure environment, coming back to that reasonably secure environment. We were coming back to our hometowns. We were coming back to our families. We were coming back to restart our educations, or in my case, go back to my old job. Looking back on my days in the Marine Corps, back in '69, coming home in '73, it was coming back to a less stable environment, if you will. Here I was, a sergeant in the Marines, coming back. I had been responsible for an artillery piece, a 2.5-ton truck, 8 Marines' lives, all their equipment, and making sure that weapon functioned properly and accurately, and everybody did their job. And came back, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're starting over. You're back at 18. You're not respected for what you have done. You're not thought of as an accomplished person, and it was really tough. And that is what a lot of the active duty soldiers run into, that they had spent 4 to 6 years on active duty in extremely responsible positions. And they come back and, you know, you're back at square one. You're back at 18 years old. And it's very tough for them. over there when we were in Baghdad, nobody really